This segment of CoastLife is sponsored by the Parker Group.
We know it's still really cold here along coastal Delmarva, and we've had to deal with winter weather and clearing the driveways and all of that nonsense. But mentally, we're looking forward to spring. And maybe some of that involves getting your house ready for spring. We've got Rachel Parker, who's been hanging out with us all day, going into Parker Group mode for us.
Yes, putting on the hat.
Yes, the Parker Group hat, which is a hat we know and love. So you wanted to talk a little bit today about sort of landscaping, because now's the time that people start making those spring plans, especially if it is going to involve a big landscaping project. Is now the time to start thinking about all that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're a little early probably to start doing it.
Yes.
But if you're like me, I'm so tired of gray skies
Oh, yeah.
and snow and cold. And so I want to start thinking about spring, which is also just a great time of the year to put your house on the market.
Sure.
And so what we always tell people is that front picture of your home, the front of your home is going to be the first picture that shows up on the MLS, on every real estate site. So it really is the first impression of your property for buyers. And so it's really important to invest some time there. And as the weather's getting warmer, there are just some little things that you can do to make sure that that first 10 seconds when someone's looking at your house is really positive.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, that curb appeal, it's something that we hear all the time, and people I think tend to think, oh man, my whole curb appeal needs a revamp.
Yes.
It's going to be this big, costly project. I need trees, I need shrubbery. What are some tips and tricks to maybe make it feel a little less scary, or do people need to do these big scale landscaping overhauls to make that curb appeal better?
It's such a great question. And so I really think the number one thing you can do is so simple. Some people do this themselves, some people hire people for it, but it's just power washing your house. And so you would be shocked at what a difference it makes just to get your siding cleaned up, your windows sparkling, your sidewalks cleaned up. That like freshness to the property kind of automatically conveys subconsciously to a buyer that this property is really well taken care of. And then on the flip side, when you do have a little bit of that green that shows up, especially if you live in the woods, it really kind of puts a damper on that picture completely. And so power washing, simple, easy, it can be done in a day, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I think especially in this area, we have a lot of those sort of coastal cottagey vibes and looks, and I think you're right, a little bit of green can make it look way smaller than a small cottage kind of house looks like, and the fresh power wash will make it look cozy and inviting and welcoming, as opposed to, oh, it's kind of small.
Exactly, yeah. And then the other thing, like you were saying, is I think a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, when I'm landscaping, I need to all these elaborate flowers and pots everywhere and just make it like really bright. Sometimes that can actually backfire, because if, like me, I can't keep a plant alive to save my life. And so some people look at that and they're like, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. Like, it's beautiful, but it's just not for me. So we really say, keep it very simple with your landscaping. All you need to do is make sure that your beds are freshly weeded. Obviously, when we get into spring and we have grass to cut your grass. But just simple, streamlined shrubbery, perennials, just things that are pretty easy. That's really all you need to do. So make sure everything looks well kept and just neat.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder, because I think you're right too. If you aren't good with sort of the bright, colorful landscape aspect yourself, it's gonna look, I think, more like a hodgepodge mess than a well thought out, well cared for property, or even sort of that little creative touch. But I think you want just enough cleanliness so people can picture themselves there, but not so much that it feels too personal and you're invading that space.
Exactly, and especially like where we live here on Delmarva, so many people are moving here from out of state. And so they're going to see that first picture of the front of your house, and that will be what will determine whether or not they want to get in the car and drive all the way down here to look at properties. And so with just a little bit of elbow grease, maybe a little bit of investment, you can make that happen pretty easily once we finally get some warm, sunny days where we can get out in the yard and start doing these things.
The promise, it can't come soon enough. Well, Rachel, as always, I think you've got fantastic reminders and little tips and tricks here for sellers and for buyers, things to look for. So if people do want to get a hold of you guys, whether they're selling, whether they're buying, whether they've got mortgage questions, the Parker Group really covers all of that and then some.
Yes, we got it all for you.
How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find us online. It's just theparkergroup.com, or you can call our office, which is 302-217-6692.
Perfect. Well, Rachel's going to take the Parker Group hat off now and get ready for some more Coast Life, because that's what's coming up next.